Greetings and good evening, everybody. Welcome to another CM Kozeman live stream. A cozier audience than before, only 5 people watching, but then again, it's the weekend and I did give short notice, so it's a private, quiet party with all 5 of you. Oh, now it's 11 people. Okay, just keep coming. All right, all right. Hello, Snapdragon. Hello, Jerry Caleb. Harry Kurominami. Hello, Pangalin. Hello, Lexus Galavan. Hello, Bleatnik. Hello, everyone. I'm really nice. I'm feeling really nice and really happy to be with you all. Hello, Kozeman. What's good? Asks Bleatnik. Well, I mean, privately, my life isn't bad. Maybe yours isn't either, but publicly, the world is in a bizarre state this week. And I am recording on the 13th of September 2025. The really big news this week was actually the one no one speaks about was the Russian drone attack to Poland, which brings the world one step closer to a NATO Russia confrontation. I think that was like the real big risky thing happening. And the second big thing on everybody's agenda was, well, the gruesome public assassination of Charlie Kirk and the ensuing fallout in the United States mostly, but um, my viewership is mostly American, strangely enough. And it must have been a really tumultuous week for you all. But you'd be surprised to know what a global event this was. I mean, people were fighting about it in Turkish forums and stuff like that. Kuro Minami says really shocking things have happened lately. Lexus Galavan says Poland has Apache attack helicopters to defend from Russia. And he adds the shooting is Utah's fault. Well, I don't know if it's Utah per se. Jerry Caleb says, I'm less scared about Russia versus NATO than I would have been before this war. Yes, if you're stateside, you would be. But if you're in Eastern Europe or in Poland or Latvia, Estonia, Lithuania, if you're in Eastern Europe, I think you'd have a lot more to be scared of. Even in Turkey, theoretically, although I don't think it will happen, Turkey is the second biggest army in NATO. And if things really turned weird and martial, they would tap into the Turkish military. So we would be NATO's foot soldiers. Peter's Kitchen says, did you look at the Nepal Gen Z protests? They held elections in a Discord call. They elected their prime minister via Discord. It's actually a major event, major event, the revolution in Nepal. It's also something many people are sleeping on because people say, it's like, they kind of pass it off as this like meme story. But I think it's the right way forward. In 100 years, there would not be a single country whose parliament is not organized by something like Discord. You have to understand, technology leads to social change, not vice versa. And now we have these tools, these online tools that make something like direct democracy possible. I mean, for example, there's really no reason why you cannot have trials over live streams and then the jury would be the chat. And it sounds ridiculous, but why? It would be a healthier and a quicker form of justice than actual justice in many countries these days. So I think the Nepal revolution, whatever that is like a big signifier showing the future. I think in the future it would not always have to be through revolution, but in the future, every country in the world, it's like, I don't know, it's like it's 1790 or something, and they held the first elections in I don't know when the first public elections were held, but it's like the first of a major trend. Also, of course, with the Nepal situation, I think the army sat down and let it happen because the government was just so shit and corrupt. I don't know, like it's a big change. I mean, do you think after like the boomer generation dies or after my generation dies, nobody will go back to paper ballots or even a separate parliament? Like the internet will the internet, the media, and the dissemination of power will influence each other, and they will evolve into strange, exciting, and maybe violent new forces that will shape life. First elections were in Greece, 500 BC. True. Yes. They had also ostracisms and like all sorts of things. Yeah, my mistake. But you know what I'm saying? Like, it's an idea whose time has come. Oxjack Film says, hello, hi. BTV 6301 says, all the NATO Russia power struggle reminds me of the co-dominium sci-fi series. Two powers have 90% of the world's military power, but only 10% of the world population. Instead, they cynically work together. I need to look into that. I have never read or played the co-dominium series. Naz T. the Beggar says, Father Kozeman time. I started this Daddy Kozeman thing as a joke, which now to me looks and feels very cringe. But then I do feel like a more quiet, calmer, level-headed paternal figure sometimes, and it's good. Dede Kozeman, yes, one day. I always like. There's a time in everybody's age where biologically they turn into curmudgeons. Like biologically, especially if you're a man, you become less tolerant and more closed in. And I'm going to try to remind myself not to be like that as long as I live. Jerry Caleb says, Father as in parent or priest because the black shirt is giving priest vibes. Well, I am maybe Rabbi Kozman. I could go with that. But I'm not a man of cloth in that respect. But I think the archetypical village priest or the village elder, in another age, it would be a role I would have liked to have adopted. I've been busy. I acquired these like really nice cotton papers. Um, Let me show you. They're called Cuddy papers, and this is not a sponsored thing. They're called Cuddy papers. They're really heavyweight, rugged cotton paper from India. Khadi.com. 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 And they're like a way cheaper version. I'll be back. So these Khadi papers are like a way cheaper version of these like in the world of watercolors and art, there's one brand I will show you. There is one brand called Arche, which is a French paper. Uh, this is it. Arche. This is like the holy grail of anybody who works with watercolors. Even if you spit on it, it starts to glow. Or maybe psychologically you feel that way because the last I check, I'm checking the prices now. The watercolor paper most prized by artists all over the world, made on a cylinder mold with a traditional process. What is the price? God damn it! Okay, so it's $25 for 12 sheets. 12, 12 sheets for $25, which is really expensive. Now, I was really lucky enough. One of my friends lent me one sheet 2 years ago, and it's just like a whole other story. Okay, but these Indian cotton papers are like the next best budget thing, and the way they hold color. I need to shine a proper light. The way they hold color is really unlike anything else. So I'm using this technique where I just have the paper taped out and I just go to town with it with charcoals, watercolors, or anything available to me. And the results are really gorgeous. If you follow me on Patreon, I will also post these later. And the colors are, the webcam doesn't do them justice, but the colors really glow in the dark, and I really spend a lot of time on these. You can also buy these from me. Just let me know in the comments, in the chat. So I made one more. This thing, and it's like almost Blakean. The way charcoal and watercolor melt into each other and also into the paper on this kind of sheet. You got this guy too. I mean, this is like the sort of peanut butter rich taste of just working with colors, thick consistency. And the trick to do these is to line the edges with masking tape, which is this thing. So I tape this to the table with this margin, this white margin on the sides, and then I paint on it. And I spent 2 days on every little sheet, okay? And it really shows there's so many little details. And I'm going to try to frame one of these just to see how it looks like. And yeah, I've had another experiment with the same brand. This is watercolor with just ink. And I made some mistakes. I mean, for example, here you see it kind of like bled into each other with this. It's like a gut shot. And yeah, this is like an uncontrolled blobby effect, which I don't really like. But then again, this thing looks really great. The border is quite tasteful, says Gnome's Child. Turtle says, yay. What is your creative process for these, says Nasty the Beggar. Well, there used to be streams where I actually painted, but tonight I'm too tired to paint. But what happens is I just lay it here and I tape the paper to the desk and then lay down let's work with one, huh? Okay, you talked me into it. I'm gonna paint with you now. Just give me a moment though. I love arch paper, but it is so expensive, says Maya Mladenovic. Yes. Armenia or Azerbaijan introduced the first AI minister. And I think knowing either of these countries, I'm not picking sides. It's just going to be like a corrupt gravy train pig. I'm sorry. It's like in Turkey, they also had like they renamed the ministry into Ministry of Clean Energy or something. Oh, the Turkish Ministry of Environment and Climate Change, they called it. And no one gives a fuck, of course. Matatilla says, we have a space agency. Well, we being Turkey, I don't know. Like, I mean, if names made the thing, oh. Jerry Caleb says, I'm glad he's a minister of AI and not that AI is a government minister. Well, you'd be surprised. I think AIs would be better off as economic ministers, that's for sure. In many countries, I think AIs would do a better job. Also with like simple non-criminal law cases like tax law or non-criminal offenses, I think AI judgments could be quicker. It could be a gravy train situation too. The new Canadian Prime Minister also made a Minister of AI or some such nonsense, says BTW. I mean, it's very fashionable, isn't it? Okay, I'm going to put these back, bring you a new sheet of paper, then we can start painting. We got our sheet of paper. Dark Master says, hey man, how's it going? Did you hear the recent news? I think you're talking about the Charlie Kirk shooting. Yes, I did. I actually did a poll about it. And it was this close to creating a political fracas on my Twitter channel. Basically, I asked them what they felt about the shooting. We can make another poll here, by the way, as I paint. Engage with my audience. Okay. Charlie Kirk had it. Okay, wait. Good riddance was one option. Didn't like him, but didn't deserve. Okay. And one was died a hero and will be avenged. Basically, I did this to read the room of how my followers felt. Okay, so yeah, there's lots of votes being cast. I'll keep an eye on it. So this is our paper. This is our masking tape. It's called masking tape. It's a tape which is easy to peel off. So first, you just tape this bad boy like so, okay? Poll is going strong. Let's see how you all think. I mean, my personal opinion about Charlie Kirk is that he was a very divisive person. He took the whole annoying streamer thing and turned it into a business model. He had chapters in high schools and not high schools but colleges and stuff like that. And I don't know how it worked, but I think you could like be a member and like and fight for the conservative cause on campus. Some like I think he was like an agitator first and foremost, but for example, I agree with him on death penalty. I think like if you have a very violent, very anti-social crime that is proven irreversibly on camera, like then that person should be just executed. I think some people are just too dangerous to have around. But yeah, Flowzone says he ridiculed the deaths of others. Yeah, so he was like a very like feisty and I mean his argument style involved riling others up. And when you put that together with you know if you're in a debate, you do want to like you do rage sometimes. And I don't know, like in America you shouldn't do that because people have access to guns, so that's what happened. Flow zone, do you also agree with the public part of executions? He demanded public executions. No, I think it's gross, but I think right now it would help if it was widely known that there would be consequences for randomly killing an innocent person. And there are people at such a level where they know the worst they'll do is go to jail, and that's better than death, so they feel like they could do anything. I would also say that those people are very, very, very rare, but it has allowed some really horrible people to like keep on existing. So okay, so that was my probably the only point I agreed with Charlie Kirk on. I think his whole thing with abortion was a shtick and a spiel. This is a very divisive issue in America, and like if you want to like do something on campus which will attract the attention of a lot of people, you talk about abortion, and people line up left and right. And with abortion, I think it's people have this stereotype. They think that only blue-haired OnlyFans maniacs or Bonnie Blue type insatiable Slanesh type people have abortions, and they think ah ha ha ha, they have it laughing. But actually statistically most people who have abortions are like housewife types, usually quite traditional too, who don't want a second or a third child. And believe me, nobody goes to the abortion clinic laughing. And yeah, a lot of conversations. I really like my audience, and 44 people watching. Thank you. At least, unlike debate streamers, he wasn't inappropriate with minors like Wash or Destiny, says Dark Master. I agree. I agree. Both of these people. Well, maybe not Wash. Wash was fallen, but I think Destiny is a really dangerous, like Mephistophelian sex freak. And all this guy wants to see is like holes with goo coming out and in, and he wants to be a part of it to the point of ignoring his child. He has, I think, two children, no? And look, I can understand wanting to be a hedonist, but the whole thing he has of probably he has this thing where he really enjoys showing and filming sex videos, and that's something I would always stay away from. Like even at my like wildest, roadiest, horniest face, I never had that desire. Like, believe me, like this might find be surprising, but I'm 41 years old. In my single days, I had triple digits of partners. Not once did I make a film or like do anything to even tell people about it. I was an interesting and handsome guy. Things happened, okay. And yes, in my teenage years, I did pursue things, but first of all, that doesn't make you happy. Second of all, you are like a serious liability. If like, you are, you have to have something really broken with you because you're doing it to prove to yourself. Nas the Beggar says, I lost the train of thought. Toro says triple digits. Destiny neglected his son who has been radicalized by right wing degenerates. Yes. Debase Gnome's Child said, filming that never brings anything good. Also, like, forget filming. You have, like, look, even in like the most basic scenario, imagine you're a guy, you met a girl at school or whatever, you had a date and you kissed. If you think like, oh, wait till I tell the guys, or like, ooh, I touched her boobs, let me tell the guys, aha, let me tell the lads, you won't go far. It shows you that you're not treating the person you encountered as, it's just like scoring. And if you look at things that way, you end up an incel. Dark Master says, Dark Master says, as for abortion, I don't really have an issue with it. It should be discouraged when it's not a medical emergency. True, maybe I can see the argument for like earlier limits, um, and maybe only after the first trimester, only until the end of the first trimester. I agree with it. If you are okay with abortion only in sympathetic cases, then it's really about the fetus being a person. It's about punishing bad girls. I don't think a lot of people who have abortions, a minuscule amount would be bad girls. And in this day of day after in this day of day after pills, condoms, birth control pills, I think the bad girls just skip the abortion stage entirely, mostly. Charlie Kirk also said something along the line of certain deaths are the necessary sacrifice to have the right to wield arms. Well, yes, live by the sword, die by the sword. There is a Turkish saying, su testisi su yolunda kırılır, which means, well, it's not the best morals, but it essentially means the water jar gets broken on the way to the fountain. Dennis Serkan says, even in that case, is it worth throwing people who actually need it under the bus? I don't think abortion should be illegal. Let's get that out of the way. This part of the conversation started from me mentioning that I agreed only about the death penalty when it came to Charlie Kirk. And pros and cons of this person. He wasn't a sex pest like Destiny. He seemed to have a nice family. But he also seemed to have an obnoxious personality. Like, this is a good tip. Like, when somebody like this becomes famous or dies, you don't have to agree with them, but go back and listen to his debates or what he had to say. Maybe he was as disgusting as they made him out to be, Or maybe he had also some level-headed points alongside the disgusting points, because people are always a mixed bag. Sam B Guitar says, "Hey Kösemen abi, how are you doing?" I'm doing well. We got this painting to get cracking with. So, but talking about stuff is also so fun too. Okay, I can see your comment, so we can do both, I think. Once you have this bad boy taped down, next to it, you bring the water. And next to the water, you bring the mixing tray, which I use to mix watercolors in. And next to that, these are all optional. I mean, you could just use like children's watercolors and just go to town with it, but I'm just making a show out of it, so enjoy it. And our Charlie Kirk poll is officially over. Here are the results. 62% think they didn't like him, but he didn't deserve it. I agree. 29% says good riddance. 6% says die the hero. 3% says he will be avenged. Very even mix. Very level-headed. On Twitter, it was different. On Twitter, my audience is more hardly to the left, and they said good riddance. So that's that. There's the disgusting website, charliesmurderers.com or something, which doxes and lists everybody who emoted about Charlie Kirk's death and tries to like get them fired and stuff. Okay, look, somebody said die the hero. Pangolin says die the hero, LMFAO. This is perhaps one of the few remaining places online where different people come under a roof. So I would appreciate if you don't fight about it. No, I don't, sir, says Pangolin. Okay, I mean, look, I will slowly start to choose not to read some of the more debatey stuff on the chat. But yeah. Reese's Puff says hello. Okay, so we got our watercolors, okay? Dark Master and Pangolin are fighting. Carl in Wilhelm says there would be dangerous consequences. Lux Athena says, what an interesting stream, but I have to go to sleep. Well, it's just brewing up. I think this stream is going to be an interesting one. So tell me which watercolor you want me to use, okay? Let's do another poll to diffuse the situation. I like polls. How do I interact with you guys? Watercolors, okay? Do we use French portable set? Do we use UK rotary child set? This is like a no brand version. Oh, it's a Koh-i-Noor version, but okay. So UK rotary. Do we use deluxe paint set, which is full of very expensive Schmink Horodam and Winsor Newton and St. Petersburg? Deluxe Big Bang, okay? Or Do we use Japanese watercolors? Start the poll. Okay, vote and I will use. In the meantime, search up Italian years of lead if you want an idea where political violence can lead. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Japanese turquoise and pink, please, says Flowzone. That really hit me. Wait, what did. Dedicating his life to Trump and receiving an AI video as condolences. Yeah. I. The people in power in the US now really, really. I can see how they came to power because you just couldn't have things business as usual. But yeah. Let's see. Vote on the poll so I can pick up a watercolor and start painting. In the meantime, we have our set of Japanese charcoals, which are really smooth and hissy. We are entering a new dark age, says Nelson Moreno. As I draw, I will talk about it because I got things to say too. So this is the best thing now. The world is going to hell in a chicken basket. But we can still draw and paint. Okay, everybody's voting for the Japanese set. Salih Berna Sarac says, hello, Mr. Köseman. I was a big pleasure to watch your extraordinary city tour videos. Since then, I've been following your work and ideas. Now, it's another pleasure to watch you drawing online. Thanks. Well, thank you. Nelson Moreno says, watching drawing. Thank you. Okay, let's continue drawing. So, my idea about political violence in the US. When the assassination took place, all the right-wing space in the Western world was going crazy about revenge. They were saying, you're gonna reap the whirlwind, and like they want to kill us, they're demons and stuff like that. I really want to know like who they identify as their enemies. Because the person who shot Charlie Kirk wasn't exactly your blue-haired redditor. So who do they identify as the enemy, and what exactly are they planning to do about it? And I think it's only a matter of time before someone like tries to assassinate somebody like Hassan Piker or Destiny or whatever, and then it will be tit for tat. Also, a lot of maniacs could just shoot up their local school or just attack innocent people in the States. I don't think it will come to a civil war though, but it could end up with some high intensity tit for tat shootings, which which are almost as equally worse. So as you can see, we got like no plans, just shading and stuff. Denis Serkan says, they really wanted the assassin to be a blue-haired redditor, but then it turned out to be a Mormon kid from a conservative family. They speculated on every minority until the truth came out. True, true, true. Kuro Minami says, do we have a name for this creature? Not really. Okay, so this line is over. We are replacing the Japanese charcoal, but any charcoal works. Just a little bit fancy because I'm in my studio, you know? We put this back. Moon Man is a good name for this thing. And let's see what you got decided on the poll. Everybody wants the Japanese set. Okay. I love democracy. Now, the good thing with this sort of paper is that it holds charcoals very, very well. Once again, I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm just choosing focal areas and adding highlights with charcoal. It will all make sense later. I'm not in a hurry because, you know, this is just art. There's no, I'm not building a bridge. If I make a mistake, it won't collapse. So we made these ribs on the tree. Now let's make these ribs on the guy. Okay. I'm also bringing in this green peel of China marker, which is a greasy, water repellent. Yes. It has a water repellent line. So you're going to see what happens when I put the water on it. Another thing about the Charlie Kirk assassination, in especially in Turkey, this idea got really floated around saying, oh, maybe it was Israel who did it to, or Trump did it to distract from the Epstein files. And I think especially the Israel theory is like, I'm sorry, but an IQ test. I mean, there's literally, don't get me wrong, yes. I mean, Russia is more likely to have done it just to create some Yuri Bezmenov style of chaos in the US. That would be a more credible theory. But it's like Israel is saying, oh, this guy was, you know, supporting us, but he was very close to changing sides. So let this be come on, get the hell out of here. If they had that much power and influence, none of this would have been necessary to begin with. So we also now we're coming in with the water-soluble pencil. Jerry Caleb says, Israel has their hands full. Yes, they're doing ethnic cleansing in Gaza and fighting a 5 or 6 front war to keep Netanyahu's corrupt government in power. fully agree. So the neat thing about this is this: when you paint on it, it dissolves into watercolor. I'm not gonna go in too deep with this because I want to use watercolor. So okay, this is my base uh base figure, okay? Let's read some of the comments, then we're gonna move in with the watercolors. I used to do this with pastel crayons a lot, says Jerry Caleb. Eleanor Davis says, yay, live stream. 1705 says, Squid Shark Guy. BTW says, I wish I had an atom of artistic talent. I love watching it though. Just scribble on a notepad. You do, it's still fun to just scratch stuff. Okay, we seem to. Planarians can kill slugs and other prey by constriction, says Boar Chronic. They are surprisingly convergent with snakes in this regard. Yes, planarians are cool. Thanks for sharing that with everybody. Naz the Beggar says, won't it smudge when painting with watercolors? That's the point of the thing. I want it to smudge. I want it to dissolve. You're going to see now. So, the secret trick is that I'm not going to go with watercolors right away. I just have the spray. This was actually a spray for room deodorant. Then I emptied the deodorant. But room deodorant spray has a very fine, smoky misting capacity or capability. And now we're going to just soak the paper a little, and you can already see some like strange mistakes starting to happen. We're going to have our Chinese watercolors ready now. Okay, you guys asked for it. We're going to have our water, and we're going to just have a little trick. This is the Maimeri Blue honey-based watercolor medium. So this is actually just honey, Italian honey. Very sweet, very delicious. I'm just going to put a little into my mixing tray. Okay. So there's the honey. I'm going to give this guy a big soaking too, so the colors activate. I also use the spray to, well, activate the Japanese watercolors. And watercolor really activates with water. It's unlike anything else. So now it's just fun time. Just get out my brush. I like these brushes with a fat body and a thin tip, so they can be loaded with lots of liquid, but also allow me to do in details. Just mixing that with the honey thing. And just having fun. Will the honey attract flies, says Gnome's Child. Maybe. Ian says, hello. Sorry I'm late. MGO says, hello from Çanakkale. Flowzone says, what's the oddest thing or instrument you used to paint with? I used to paint with my saliva, and actually a lot of the pictures in All Tomorrows were painted with that technique. Saliva dissolves a pencil in a strange way. But I've used like dust as a rubbing just to texturize the paper. That is to say, I impregnated paper with dust from the ground. Once there was a big rain and I collected mud from the street and then mix it with transparent acrylics and glycerine and a few other substances and made this like very thick paintable mud. That was fun. So now I'm gonna just go with counterintuition, and the background is actually gonna be this nice, unique Japanese lacquer green. And you can see the paint glides really well because we already impregnated the paper with water. We soaked it up beforehand. Level 1, Libosh says, hello from the Black Sea region. Hello to you too. Caden Slinker says hello. Kuro Minami says, this is the best fun fact I have ever heard. Was it about the strange paint, or I'm glad you enjoyed it. So now the tape makes its proves its worth because so I had this little white space here. Just to be artsy, I'm gonna get in with my thin brush. I'm gonna give it a blue highlight. Maybe as if there's water below. Just to show you the real colors, I'm gonna use my lamp. That's too bright. Yeah, that's what the real colors look like. And this is too garish. With the background, it does look more like a plantain frog seen from under. I don't know what a plantain frog is, but with this kind of art, I just want it to be its own thing. I don't want it to be like, I mean, it's a blue figure made with paint and nothing beyond that. Of course, it is informed by what I know about anatomy and everything, but not everything, in my humble opinion, has to depict something with lore. It could just be a cool image that is just beautiful for the sake of beauty. So now I'm going to show you another trick. I have here granulation spray, which is just ethanol. I think this was the biggest swindle of my life because I paid like a small sum for this. But then I looked at the contents, it's just ethanol. So it's the same thing as spraying cologne. But what it does is it gives a sort of marbled effect to the whole thing. Suyane27 says, hi, I'm from New Mexico. Wow, we got some nice viewers from far off. I guess using your spit really means putting yourself into your paintings. So look, the saliva thing happened with these sorts of hand, like Water soluble pencils. We can still we can still experiment with it. I mean, there's nothing wrong about it. But I don't put it in the like I don't put it in my mouth. I'm very careful not to get the lead back into my mouth. So what I used to do is I would have like a bottle cap and I would just deposit some spit on it and then paint with it that way. Later on, I learned that I could just use glycerine, which is, I think, even more uh, smooth when it comes to painting. But yeah, that was a phase in my artistic career. Spampton says, "Hi from Northern California, the best part of California." Yes, I've driven down there on the 101 highway years and years ago. Norm Shell says, "I think graphite is fine to eat." I don't know. I don't know what these guys have, and as a rule, you shouldn't really, you know, spit where you paint. Okay. So you notice how mm, you notice how the charcoal actually melts into the rest of the colors. And I really love that. So I'm just going in with raw water here because remember this green was actually done with water soluble pencils. And I left this sliver of white here just so that it looks like a reflection. Another trick I do is I just load the brush up with some paint, and after it dries a little, I go pit, 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 pit on the corners, and it deposits very small drops, but it makes it more molten looking. And Turkish friends are talking about where they're from. Chris Adler is from Küçükçekmece, uh, lovely part of Istanbul, he says. Ilan doxed himself, but then took it back, so I'm not going to read that. All right. Well, I hope you're enjoying watching me paint. I'm enjoying too. Whoever talked me into this, thank you. Another technique you can do is after you lay down the charcoal, you can trace the outlines to kind of make them merge. I mean, with me, the trick is to make this look like it appeared in the paper like smoke. Nelson Moreno says it's cool. Nas the beggar says yay. 50 people watching me paint. Oh my god. So, as I paint, since this is the World in Turmoil stream, How, if at all, has the Charlie Kirk assassination impacted you if you're in the States? If you let me know, or like if you're a student, or has this caused debates in your campus or something, maybe we can, as we paint, we can use that to as an excuse to drive the conversation forward. If you noticed, I don't follow any color wheels or color theory. I just make it consistent and colorful and fun. I want this, like, if this is on a wall somewhere, if it's framed and all that, I want people to look at this and smile. That's all. Believe me, this is gonna look far better with the when it's scanned, because there's some details here that the camera just can't pick up. Uh, it's a relief that not a single person I talk to in real life no even knows that the Charlie Kirk shooting happened. I haven't heard about it offline. That's good. That's very interesting. And that's something people overlook these days, especially online. There's the internet world and there's the real world. I would say that the Charlie Kirk shooting was one of the first events which was like an earthquake in the internet world, but maybe it's like real world footprint is far less relevant. Who knows? So now this guy is almost ready to go. I got another secret trick up my sleeve, which is just correction fluid pen. It's just like Tipex, but it does behave rather incredibly on this sort of paper, and I can use it as some sort of embellishment to highlight those really nice, bright white colors. And because the thing isn't dry yet, it still seems to appear inside the paper. Nobody but the odd cornball cares about the Kirk assassination. That's a relief almost. So we kind of gave it like a scintillating edge. What is a cornball? Says Naz the beggar. Is it like popcorn? I think it was used in the context of like a weirdo person and not in an interesting sort of way. So similar to the white correction marker, we also have the red Sharpie. But now there's too much starting to happen in the painting, so I'm going to use it very sparingly just to avoid overkill. Maybe to highlight the eyes. And what else? Maybe to fill in this sun bit. Maybe just a very short highlight here. These, like, on paper, even the tiniest mistake, tiniest mark you leave can create a reaction and a feeling in the viewer. So now we just have dollar store pens, and these also melt in the water. So I'm going to do some edge effects with them. So you can see charcoals, watercolor, correction fluid, dime store pens, they're all in there. All a big goopy mess. And the biggest challenge you will face will be to avoid overkill. Okay, I think it's almost done. Just defining this tree with the green joke store, dime store pen. And then going over it with the slightly wet brush. As you can see, now I'm defining very narrow sections, not even with color, just doing blobs and blebs, really. Adonaim says, that's the best and worst part in physical media. One stroke can ruin your art, but it gives your painting a lot more weight. Well, I would, it's so fun. It's actually very hard to ruin a painting. And even if it's ruined, so what? Make another one. So I noticed this, like, in people who create exclusively with digital. I noticed this undo hesitancy. And they feel confident as long as they can undo a brushstroke. But if they're in a setting where they can't undo stuff, then they get stuck. Trump sent boat to my country to block it, and Maduro lost his shit, says Nas the beggar. My country being Venezuela, maybe? Spampton says a crazy dude, referring to cornballs. Cornball also means a over dramatic person. Thanks to Blankar Hans for the explanation. It's been an hour already. All right, now you can see this is the most fun part, the peeling of the tape. Even though I do this 1 day later after it's properly dried, this never gets old. Look, look, look. Oh. Oop. Yes. This is so cool, says Clam James. Thank you. Oh no, because it's wet, we got some. Yeah, it's okay. Are you ready? Clean, says Gnome's Child. Yes, I can feel the satisfaction from pulling the tape, says. Whoop, they took it back. Okay. It's clean. So now, to make this look even more artistic, always remember that when you paint, you are actually creating a document. So you always need to date these documents. So I'm going to call it, well, I'm going to sign it here first. CM Kozeman, live stream. And today, the date is the 14th of September. And just for some extra fancy stuff, maybe not here. Maybe not here. Maybe. But you see how nice it looks now. We created like a proper artsy thing. Now imagine this thing in a frame would look so nice. All the little color details here. They really made the whole thing come alive. Jungle vibes with this one, says Cookies. Heavy breathing, says Boar Chronic. Tropical feeling with the greens and the reds. Yes, yes, yes. Does he have a name? Nah, just call it live stream. You all can name it if you like to. Looks like it speaks through telepathy. Does it? Well, we did make the eyes very intense with the acrylic marker, so. Oh, just look at the eyes. So yeah, would it be nice if I could just sit and just paint, and like Dali or Picasso sell one for $1,000 or something? That would be the dream. Even the little guy, his own red button of destruction. That was meant to be a sun, but yeah, maybe it's a 4-minute warning global red button. His name is Livestream. I think his parents should have loved him more. Yes, Destiny's son. So one other thing I do is, okay, I got the live stream here. Flip it and just put it down this way. Stamp with my name. Stamp with signature. Just sign it loosely on the back too, so when people frame it, this also looks like proper and like autographed and everything. Cookie says, where did you get your logo on a stamp? That's so neat. Oh, well, there's shops that do it for like $1 or $2 American dollars. It's very easy. Same with this. You just give them the Adobe Illustrator file as a vector image and they take care of the rest. In terms of manufacturing, Turkey is a great place. Great place. I can't stress that enough. Just putting my pans back just a second. Okay. Let's put the watercolors back too. Just you guys enjoy the painting. Hmm. Hmm. You enjoy the sights while I place everything back. Hmm. Okay. Yes. Okay. Always clean your brushes after working. And I mean, I have this. I always like clean up my desk space after working. And yeah. Huh. So when not in use, everything sits in a neat tray like this. That's all my watercolor stuff. I got a whole bunch more, but they're in the closet. And everything sits in a neat tray like this. And well, it's always ready to deploy. Turkey makes great weapons, says Nelson Moreno. True, true. There's a burgeoning defense industry. Cookie says, I gotta make my own logo or something that's seriously cool. Okay, Carl in Wilhelm says, heart, thank you. To sell like Dali or Picasso, you must leverage the film industry. True or die. But then I won't be able to get the money. Now that somebody said it, I cannot unsee him slamming the red button. Okay, okay. Nothing about this was planned. It's so good. Could have been some other colors if you chosen the French watercolors or the British ones. It would be a totally different painting. So thank you. Let me check some messages. Any good or bad movies you've seen lately, says Hasimir Fernring. I don't know. I've been watching. So when I have breakfast, my breakfast jam is to watch these YouTube channels about aviation, which is one of my niche interests. They're not really movies, but they're about like airplanes and airplane industry stuff, and they're fun, especially combat aircraft. Flowzone says, "What role would you want to play in a movie?" I don't know. Something like Hassan Masud's role in The Kingdom of Heaven. He played Saladin there. I would like a role like that, or some arcane sage character. I don't know. Could also be somebody totally not like me, like a villain or a slapstick character. Chris Adler says, never watch glider videos. That's a never ending story. BTV says, what is Jerusalem worth? Nothing. Everything. I love that scene. Wars are bad, but planes are rad, says BTW. Very true. I'll show you the last video I was watching. Wait. Actually, I'll just show you the channel. Not a pound for air to ground. And then there's also, I'm going to show them to you all. So these are my two favorite breakfast plain jam channels, okay? I have my plain jam when I'm eating my real jam. So this one is not a pound for air to ground, and it's a really, really serious, well-researched channel. I love this thing. You understand aviation as a total industry, and you see they make those planes for a reason, and they all have their like operations and missions, and that's really nice. Oh, there's also this other channel. Wait. Rex's Hangar. That's a great channel too. I'm going to show them to you all. Okay, there's also this channel, which is IHYLS. And it's all about the weird experimental planes and one-off test aircraft and stuff like that. And also, the narrator is a great guy. I really love this channel. Go subscribe to them all. And then after this, another great channel is Rex's Hangar, which is a very well-researched, in-depth. This guy is like an epic two episode series about French aviation between the world wars, and it's just beautiful. So like when you're having breakfast, I don't want to watch slop. Like when I'm working, when I have to paint or draw or do something visual, then I turn on slop on the side. So like Hasan Abi or Destiny or Young Turks or whatever, they can keep me entertained. Mr. Metokur, Kino Casino. Those are like yap. They're fun. And yeah, there's some nice joy to be had from that. But yeah, when I have like my breakfast time, I want to focus on something that I can learn. BTW says, whoa, buddy. True. I love to hear Cenk going crazy, says Hasimir Ferning. True, and you might be hearing that literally because I think he really embarrassed himself talking about 9/11 conspiracies, and like he's becoming a believer adjacent or a fellow traveler with the whole 9/11 conspiracy theories, which is not the best look. Joseph says, would it be possible on a continent devoid of amphibians for rodents that rafted there to fill the niches that they occupy elsewhere? True, there could be many aquatic rodents or rodent adjacent animals, such as this guy. Yapok is a strange kind of water opossum. It's got weird hands and flipper legs, and it looks like something out of All Tomorrows. I'm looking for nice images of the yapok, so bear with me. Hmm. There's a good one. And there are also desmans, which are really strange, like snouted. They're not rodents, they're insectivores, but they're aquatic, and you could argue they're almost like hyperactive frog equivalents. So we're going to see them all now. Oh, for Christ's sake. Wait. Sorry, I lost the images. You just have to bear with me, okay? There's a Desman, and let's get the Yapok ready. Okay, so this is a Yapok. Although this is not a road, so this is a Desman, sorry. It's got this strange nose and claws, also fins, and yeah. Of course, beavers are a better equivalent. Yes, my mind goes to the strangest creatures, and these are insectivores. They're not rodents, but yeah, I mean something like a water-living rat could do it. And also, this is a yapok, which is actually an aquatic opossum, out of all things. But it really looks like a Sonic the Hedgehog character. It's got these like hand-like feet and hands, but fins too. Lexus Galavan says, have you heard of young Chuanosaurus? Yes. If you rewrote All Tomorrows, would you add the odd uses of AI into it? No, never. Never. Why? I would draw everything with my own two hands. What is this strange creature, says Lexus Galavan? It's a Yapok. Yapok. Adonaim says, which books have you read already? I finished this really nice travelogue called Slow Boats to China, written by Gavin Young. And it's this guy's adventure. He starts from London and goes to China, traveling only on boats. And it's actually a secret elegy to the British Empire too, because the guy is British, and he goes through India, the Middle East, Persia, Southeast Asia. It's a beautiful book, really full of incredible, very humane stories. There's one bit where he talks to someone who was robbed by pirates as they were anchoring off the sea, and the pirate comes up to the guy's cabin in the boat and says, "Money, money, where's the money?" Which is like a really like musical, and you say, okay, a pirate would speak that way, wouldn't he? The name is called Slow Boats to China. I'm going to share you an image. I'm getting sleepy too. This is the book, which I strongly recommend. The yapok, says Jerry Caleb, reminds me of a time when mammals were still kind of lizardy. Yes, yes, yes. Oh, when I told you about AI, says 1705, would you add how AI destroyed humanity? No, because I don't think AI would or could destroy humanity. It's just a annoying, little understood technology. That's all. But if you want to know more about how I would rewrite All Tomorrows, you can go to my Patreon, because I am actually rewriting All Tomorrows. I mean, I carry these notebooks with me all the time. "24-hour stream ending in a 3-day pizza party," says Bomb Neiman. Okay. Jerry Caleb says, "CM Cosm and probability of doom 0%. I seriously had no idea. Go to Patreon. There are entire chapters you can read. I mean, here's a section for this is about the evolution of the hedonists, and now each species is accompanied by 2 or 3 more different creatures in that evolutionary lineage. Just yesterday, I wrote a scene set in the collapse of today's society. Actually, I can read this. "Plenty are the personal visions the students of time have been able to obtain from those eventful centuries. Yet, due to your proximity to what is about to come, few are permitted to you. Behold now, dun, succession, counter succession, a fatigue independence, and now impending conquest by a rural army. The city had changed allegiance numerous times. Negligence, disease, massacres, and strifes had all taken their toll, and most of its population had dispersed. The museum had once been a crown jewel of the city, but like many institutions it once held, was now nearing the end of its life. The group of savants, eccentrics, and volunteers gathered that day to put what had remained of its collections to rest. Most of what could be moved had already been stolen, sold off, or in a few lucky cases, moved to a few protected sanctuaries that were being set up in the mountains. But that still left out numbers of artifacts which were simply too large or too heavy to move away. Once, decades before they were born, the city had held multiple museums. As difficult as it was to believe, it had a separate museum for art, a separate museum for ancient relics, one for natural history, and another for artifacts of war, and so on. Then a boastful new rule, invoking tradition and blood, had consolidated them all under a new gargantuan museum of the people. The brief optimism of that new rule had then quickly faltered, and bloody infighting had ushered in the country's ultimate downfall. Yet the museum had persisted. The people in charge of the operation gathered once more, and for one last time, almost perfunctorily, discussed their reasons for what they were about to do. They agreed that the city was effectively dead, and their realm would likely not know peace and stability again for at least a few centuries to come. The historian pointed out similar events from civilizations long gone and remarked, I see no hope simply because no one alive now can comfortably say who or what they are. As a nation, a community, a people, it is tribe against tribe again. And these days, there are as many invented tribes as there are old ones. Oh, I am certain some overarching sense of belonging will prevail in time, certainly, but not in our lifetimes. Until that happens, no one will truly be able to understand and cherish what we have managed to salvage here. Indeed, without context, you have seen how they make them parts of malign and idiotic fictional histories. And I guess I can speak for us all when I say that no one here wants to encourage that anymore. Better then for us to bury them all and hope that one day a more mature civilization can appreciate and learn from them again. They all agree and without ceremony set the process in motion. Everything had already been moved into the catacomb like giant tunnels radiating away from the museum's basement area. And everything had been wrapped up in redundant coats of plaster. The engineer had arranged large crude fluid transfer pumps to be brought in under immense difficulty from one of the failed agricultural concerns. He turns them on and they roar into life. One sputters and dies, unable to cope with the ethanol based replacement fuel. Not to worry, the engineer had redundant units brought in, expecting exactly such a failure. And they have no plans to move the pumps away after the operation. They sputter on, pumping thick mud and silt from the nearby Great River, mixed in with hard setting concrete. Messy, giant, patched up tubes move in through the museum's once resplendent main hall, down into the lower floors, and finally snake their way into the basement. It takes 24 days to completely cover everything. In comes the dark mud, burying the marbles and the bronzes, the Glyptodon shells and the Demeter of Ephesus, the armored battle tanks and the prehistoric marine reptiles, sauropod skeletons and caryatids, ichthyosaurs and crurai, stone heads and sarcophagi, tablets and trilobites, mosaic floors and baleen whales, wonders of creation and the march of civilization, all frozen mid stride. For years they rest, decades give way to centuries, centuries to millennia. No one discovers them again. So, this was one of the small scenes from the first chapter, which by itself is nearly 100 pages long and has many, many stories about how our civilization collapses before the civilization of the star people is born. So, that's how it goes, and it's really fun to write, and this is just a fraction, but yeah, Glad you asked. This is really cool, says 70. Well, go to my Patreon. There's many more cool stuff there. Eleanor Davis says, such wonderful writing. I'm super excited for the book. Thank you. Slowly but surely, it's going to happen. Jerry Caleb says, I just realized all tomorrows is Ancient Aliens in reverse. Thank you for the snippet. Adonaim says, Sarıkız. That's the brand of my mineral water. Okay, nearly 2 hours. I'm going to go answer a call of nature. I'm going to pee. And then why don't you all tell me good night and where you're from? Where are you from? Good night. Where are you from? Good night. Where are you from? Good night. And I'll just leave you with Sarıkız and today's stream drawing creature. And yeah, tell me good night. I'll be right back. All right. Good night to 1705 in Istanbul. Good night to Nelson Moreno in Portugal. Good night to Eleanor Davis in the UK. Good night to Carl Wilhelm in Istanbul. Good night to Slotman in Florida. Good night to Jesse Birdsall in Maryland, Baltimore. Good night to Flozon in Deutschland. Good night to Seteki in the US. Don't let the bed bugs bite. I got an incredible. I was reading a Turkish memoir a few months ago, and apparently bed bugs do commando tactics. So it's about those old Turkish houses like this, okay? There are these like wooden houses. They are very romantic and beautiful, and people used to live in them before, well, concrete was a thing. And they look like this, okay? So people would live in these houses, and they have a more humane and beautiful architecture. But the thing is, life in these buildings was tough. Moisture was a problem, and bed bugs were a problem. So this one guy writes that he was like so fed up with bed bugs that he actually put his bed in a special arrangement. He put the bedstand's legs into clay pots and filled them all with either like gasoline or methanol, okay? Like it's like fuel, literally. And he said the discomfort of breathing the fumes was less than waking up with bed bugs attacking me all over the place. So he managed to sleep one night, 2 nights. The smell is horrible, but he endures. Okay, and then the next night he gets attacked by bed bugs again, and he doesn't know how they can get to the bed because the bed's legs are in these like well, gasoline filled pots. Okay, if they climb there, they fall in the gasoline and die. And he checks the legs, and they're working. I mean, it's full of dead bed bugs, but some are somehow getting through. So he lights a lamp, and this is all happening like 150 years ago, so there's not much power. So the entire house is made out of wood, and he watches a bedbug crawl up the wall as it does. Then it goes up the wall. Then it goes into like commando tactics and goes to the ceiling and comes up this ceiling, comes through the ceiling above the guy. And once there, it drops like a SEAL 6 special ops paratrooper and lands on the guy and starts drinking from him. And it's like paratrooper bedbugs. Yeah, exactly. Nasty to Beggar in Venezuela, good night. Boar Chronic in France, good night. Caraclo Pravetoni from the Empire of the Star People, good night. Chris Adler in Küçükçekmece, good night. Matatilla from Germany, good night. Good night to Noah in Austin, Texas. Good night to Adonai from Azerbaijan. Starship Trooper, as seen, says, yeah. So that's that, everybody. This was a great night, and thanks for sitting down with me. Mission Impossible bugs, yeah. I'm glad I hope you enjoyed it too. And well, wherever you are, thank you for listening. If you're in the replay gang, please consider supporting me on Patreon, donating to me on Patreon. Or every penny helps. And that's that. Take a look at the live stream painting. And 3, 2, 1, mark, boom.